Hello and welcome to the Doofcast, a film and TV podcast from Doof Media. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me, as always, it's the butcher himself. We've got him. We trapped him. It's Matt Freeman. How's it going today, Matt?
I'm good. I'm just here to make sure this podcast is divided into a proper number of pieces.
It's troubling. This week on the show, we are taking a look at the newest film by M. Night Shyamalan. Of course, we're talking about 2024's Trap. This is what we call, Matt, an addendum to our Deconstructing Shyamalan series. I think Deconstructing Shyamalan was like one of the first ones we did under this new format, and we've revisited him. I think this is the second time since we finished the series. I'm trying to remember if Glass was out when we were doing that series. I think it was.
I think it was too. So I think old was not. I'm pretty sure.
No, we definitely did an addendum for old. I was just trying to remember if there was any before that, but no, I think it was just oh no, there was a Knock at the Cabin episode, wasn't there?
There must have been. Who knows, and who could possibly find out? I don't know.
There was definitely a Knock at the Cabin episode, and the reason for why I am frantically pausing as we go is because I had pulled our ranking list from the old episode, forgetting that there was a Knock at the Cabin episode. So we've revisited Shyamalan. This will be the third time since our Deconstructing Shyamalan series ended. One of my favorite directors, and also, one of my favorite series that we've done. I think it was a lot of fun to look at those films.
Yeah, me too.
But this week, it's all about his newest film, Trap. And then, of course, we're going to, at the end of the episode, take Trap and find a way to put it into our ranking of all the Shyamalan films. We'll find out where it lies in there. And I think we'll do the thing, Matt, where we just reassess the list in general and see if our opinion on any of these movies has cooled over time or strengthened, right?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, let's get right into it and talk all about Trap.
Cooper, Jamie, what's with all the police trucks outside? The cameras everywhere, Jamie. I'm not supposed to tell. Something happening? Don't rat me out. I won't. You know the butcher? The freaking nut job that goes around just chopping people up? Well, the feds or whatever heard that he's gonna be here today, so they set up a trap for him. This whole concert? It's a trap. They're watching all the exits, they're checking everyone that leaves. There's no way to get out of here.
Matt, what is this movie all about?
A father and his teen daughter attend a pop concert only to realize they've entered the center of a dark and sinister event.
A lot of respect for that IMDb summary for trying not to spoil the conceit of the movie.
I agree.
Respect.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that the trailer completely spoiled the conceit of the movie.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that, but man, I wish I hadn't had that spoiled by the trailer.
Yeah, same. This movie was written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, of course. It stars Josh Hartnett, Ariel Donahue, and Salik Shyamalan, M. Night's daughter. Matt, Trap, what did you think?
I enjoyed this movie a ton. I really enjoyed it. Really, Josh Hartnett's performance was just so great. I was sitting back thinking, like, man, I wish I'd been seeing more Josh Hartnett over the years, and I was like picturing him in all these other roles that have been, portrayed by other actors who may have been great actors, but I was just thinking, like, yeah, Josh Hartnett would have been good in that. Yeah, Josh Hartnett would have been a good lead for that movie, and and he's very different in this movie than I've ever seen him before, which really just shows his range. So apropos of this sort of context, I was thinking, I wonder if The Happening would have been better if he had been the lead instead of that guy. Marky Mark.
Wahlberg.
Because like, I can just, there was something about Hartnett's just energy and charisma that was just utterly magnetic and really kind of carried things for me. But
sure.
that's my first impressions. What did you think about this movie?
I love this movie. I think Hartnett is a huge reason for that. I really think it's interesting that like late career Shyamalan, or I guess we'll call it late career. This guy could be making movies for another 40 years, so this will be mid career Shyamalan. But recent career Shyamalan has really been Night just kind of being like, I want to take an actor or actress and I want to spotlight them, and just show what they can do. Right? I think James McAvoy, that's what he did with Split, and this is Hartnett's film. It truly is, and he's incredible at it. I kind of want to spend some time talking about Josh Hartnett. Maybe we shouldn't start the show with this, but I think he's a really fascinating actor whose career, like I'm with you. Like I wish it was different, honestly, but it's hard for me to blame anything for that because I feel like he chose the movies he wanted to do for the most part, and he kind of mapped the career out he wanted. But man, he's a good actor. I've always really thought he was fun, and it's a pretty good couple of years between showing up in Oppenheimer and this. He's doing it's the Hartnett-essence, I guess.
I guess so. And it's funny you mentioned that because I didn't recall that until you reminded me just now that because he's such a different character in these two movies, right? It's I kind of honestly, and this is, I guess now in retrospect shameful, but like I just thought of him as kind of like a heartthrob from the old days and not really a serious actor. And I just totally this year, like you just said, totally reversed my opinion on him. The subtlety, like I said, the magnetic charisma.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, I guess we'll talk about this now. We're going to do exact opposite of what I said we were going to do, but I think it makes sense. This is his movie. Start with him makes sense. I mean, he was up for the Superman role for Superman Returns. He turned it down. He was per Christopher Nolan not like offered Batman, but like in the contention for getting Batman. And it's kind of just really interesting to think about how different the world and his career and our perception of him would be had he landed one or both of those two roles, right? Those are like big time blockbuster leading actor roles, and just how different his career would have been. And we maybe not would have gotten this film ever, so it's hard to be too angry about it, but it is really interesting. Like he had it was the Pearl Harbor was like probably like peak Josh Hartnett at the turn of the millennium. Between that and Black Hawk Down, and then I think he had 40 Days and 40 Nights not long after that, which is that silly 2002 comedy where he says he's gonna stop jizzing for 40 days and somehow like by the end of a month and a half of no sex, no masturbation is like hallucinating, because that's what would happen. Anyway, it's really interesting. Like you look at the start of his career, you look at The Faculty, where he played this like, I love The Faculty so much, and I love his character in The Faculty in the late 90s. And then I think his first role was in Halloween H2O. I think he plays the daughter of Jamie Lee Curtis's character in that. And I don't know, it's just really interesting, like looking at his career and thinking about what could have been, what would have been. And then he just kind of putzed around for the rest of the 2000s and the 2010s, and has suddenly like come back with a vengeance here. And it's great to see him. And to get back to the thing we're supposed to be talking about, I completely agree with you. I think he's incredible in this movie. And some of the most frustrating things that I read about the movie were about how Hartnett's performance wasn't good. And I need to sit these people down and be like, what do you think is happening? Like, do you think the awkward dialogue was an accident? And just like, because Josh Hartnett can't act, like, this is the thing that really frustrates me, Matt, is like, whenever we talk about Shyamalan, I feel like I'm just like a 20-mile disconnect from people.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to address this at some point for sure. So, like that to me is what makes it a great performance. Is he is first of all, I guess, and this also helps us segue into the movie and the contents of the movie, and so spoilers and everything. Just like the thing that makes this a great character and a great performance is the premise is that this guy is, a probably, just a deeply troubled psychotic serial killer.
Yeah.
And um in his own mind, he really, his true self is this serial killer, this monster, and he's been wearing the mask of being a family man for years now. For like, his daughter's probably 13 or so, right? I don't remember exactly.
That's about right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
he's been wearing the mask of a family man for that long, in his own mind anyway. And so what you're seeing in the performance is you're seeing this the flickers of the monster through the mask of the dad, and you're seeing the dad mask, but also maybe it's not just a mask. Maybe he has become a dad. He does love his daughter. I think the movie's pretty clear on that.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate conclusion of the movie is him being happy because there's a small part of him that's not a monster. And
right.
and I think the real hook of this movie is this idea of this is a guy trying to get away while also trying to not ruin the concert for his daughter. Like, and I think I love that you didn't coin, but like popularized with me the term face acting because like Hartnett is doing so much stuff with his face in this movie.
Yeah.
And like one of my favorite scenes in the film is when he is looking at her dance up on stage with Lady Raven. And he's like, he goes between like what must be like 47 different emotions, where he is at first like distracted and thinking about like he set this whole thing up so they could get backstage because backstage is an easier way to get out. But then he like sees how scared and nervous she is to go on stage, and he's nervous for her. You can tell like it's the parental like I'm scared for you because you're scared thing. And then she starts having fun and like loosening up, and you see this pride flicker on his face while also like simultaneously having to worry about this other stuff, and then being torn of was like, oh, am I gonna really hurt her if I like so many things on his face all at once, and it's all there, and it incredible. Like just I was blown away.
Yeah. So much of it is not verbalized, where you're watching him think and he's so good at it that you can kind of, he looks at the little trap door that leads underneath and you're right there with him. You're like, okay, could you get out that way? Like he tries to convince his daughter to go with him, and she's like, what are you talking about?
And he's like, this is the kind of stuff they call like bad line readings, when he's like, hey, look at that. That's cool. Let's go down there.
Yeah.
She's like, what? But that's not bad line readings. That's just like him like desperate and trying to come up with things. And like,
right.
It'd be cool to like go down there. And she's just like,
what? You're acting weird. Yeah. There's that stuff. There's so many scenes where he's just off by himself, or God, I could just list the scenes where it's just amazing stuff that I just was riveted by. Like when he goes into the hallway where all the cops are being briefed, and you can see this mix of anxiety, but also he's kind of like glee.
Yeah,
because he's like, oh, they're all here for me. This is all about me, and I'm walking amongst them. I'm the wolf walking amongst the sheep. These dumbasses, and he enjoys messing with them, and like it's clearly unnecessary for him to like get as close as he does and like do the whole thing with the coffee and the sugar.
Yeah,
he's enjoying messing with them. You can see on his face that he's just tickled by this.
Yeah, and there's a really great moment in that when he's like kind of muscling his way back through them, and he's like got the friendly jovial look on his face, and then when he gets to the very end of the line, his face changes, like it darkens, it solidifies, and like the last couple of the cops he walks through, he kind of like shoulder checks him a little bit. Like it's so great, and you could just like see the change come over him, like this, like because the one thing that needs to be said is like this guy has fooled everyone around him for years and years and years. Not completely fooled, but enough, right? And I think it really matters that we get to see how exactly he accomplished that. And that scene I think demonstrates that pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, and it tells us so much about his personality that isn't actually textual. Like I think
Mhm.
it may be to some degree or another a valid criticism of Shyamalan's approach to screenwriting that he often has characters say things that could have just been shown. And I think this movie is a great counterexample where we learn almost everything there is to learn about this character from his behavior and
Mhm.
actions, just like in silence as he is. Not that we aren't also told things here and there, but to me,
Yeah.
that's not what I loved about the movie. That's
Yeah.
not what made it.
The thing people like to point toward this, and I don't want to make this a conversation about how people are stupid to Shyamalan. Honestly, the way I feel about people that don't like Shyamalan films is I just feel bad for them. Like it's not
Yeah.
even like it's not even I get angry at them. I just feel bad for them because I wish they could enjoy these delightful movies that he's continuing to create. But the thing that I see most often criticized is scenes like when Hartnett first talks to the t-shirt salesman guy,
Mhm.
and basically gets the premise of the movie laid out to him. And Shyamalan shoots this very specifically where it's face on face. It's like Silence of the Lambs with the
Yeah.
Clarice and Hannibal conversations where they're both looking into the camera and talking to each other. It's established to be awkward and uncomfortable. Intentionally. And so
Yeah.
the dialogue, when it is very exposition focused and very kind of Shyamalan characters often talk like unrealistic to how people like talk normally, right? But like here's the thing, so do Wes Anderson characters, and it's just like he has an affect, he has like a larger than life thing that people say, like the t-shirt salesman guy. There's this one moment where he just tells his daughter, "No, she wants it more. Don't worry about it." And his response is just to be like, "Y'all are good people. I know. I can." Like he just like has concluded on them from one line of dialogue and just like outlines his entire view on their morality. It's just like it's not clunky. It's just very specific.
Yeah.
Um,
It-
and I but like he shoots it so interestingly, so like I just loved that part, like I loved it.
yeah. I almost wonder if there's not kind of another layer of people being off base here because like human beings are very weird and
True. Yeah.
it's not to me it's quite plausible that you could like show some kindness in front of a guy running a t-shirt stand and have that guy react in a way that like is totally irrational because that kind of shit happens all the time. Like if you actually go out into the world, it helps to have kids because kids are like a sort of lubricant for like causing you to have interactions that you otherwise would probably just not have because
Sure.
they will interact with things and conversations will happen. And you realize like, oh wow, everybody around me is like thinking and reacting in ways that I certainly wouldn't. And like I'm not even really being like critical here. It's just like, oh, there's like everybody's kind of starting from a different place and behaves
Yeah.
differently. So anyway, the point of all this is to say, I don't know that it's even quite correct to say like, oh, Shyamalan writes people behaving unrealistically. I'm like, no, I think he just doesn't. He's not so like Hollywood brained that he has everyone acting as like a automaton at all times,
Yeah.
like as you're supposed to do in a
Mhm.
screenplay.
You're totally right, because this guy is like Jamie, the t-shirt salesman, is like
Mhm.
is a very specific character. Like he's drawn very specifically, and he's
Yeah.
larger than life in a lot of ways. And like, and he ends up being a great. I don't know if you stayed to the end credits, or he ends up being like the final joke of the film is him.
No, I didn't.
There's one final shot at the end of the movie where he's watching on TV and sees that they show a picture of the butcher as Cooper, and he's like, he recognizes him and goes, "Oh shit, I am in so much trouble. I helped him. I am never helping anybody at work again," or something funny like that. And
Okay.
it's just like it's a really good joke moment at the end of which by the way, this is a funny movie. Like Shyamalan said that he was laughing to himself as he was writing it, And I think that's absolutely true because it's like a funny movie.
Yeah.
Like it's a funny movie in Shyamalan's weird sense of humor where horrible things happen to people and people die and yada yada yada. But like it's like the trapdoor sequence is supposed to be funny to you. Like that's not supposed to read as like a straight scene. Like you're supposed to be laughing at that.
Yeah, I think I did laugh somewhat. I think this movie actually made me really anxious though.
Well, I think that's part. To be fair, he is wanting that as well. For sure.
Yeah. But that kept it from being maybe as funny as it might have been. I imagine this would be a movie that would be more funny on a second viewing, actually, because you know what's going to happen.
Definitely. And I want to talk to you about the second view experience. But as just an example of the sense of humor of this movie, the psychiatrist Dr. Grant, who is the woman that has profiled him and is kind of leading this whole thing, that is a woman named Haley Mills, the actress. She is a very, very long time actress, really doesn't do work much anymore. Really just kind of randomly shows up in one or two things over time, hasn't really worked steadily because she's old. She's been enjoying her life. Matt, do you know what movie she's the most famous for?
No, I don't.
It's a movie in 1961 called The Parent Trap. And did Shyamalan cast her in this movie because she's most well known for The Parent Trap? 100% he did. 100% he did. That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's good. That's a good little one there, Shyamalan. Love it.
Anyway, sorry. We can go back to you talking about how this movie stressed you out.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that because, like, okay, so this is one of the ways to know what Shyamalan is genius because it's an incredibly good premise. Even from the beginning, it's hard to say what the effect would have been because I knew the basic gist of it, that he's a serial killer and they're trying to trap him. But even not knowing that, there's kind of a tension to this idea, that the simple mundane idea of like, this dad is taking his daughter to this concert, and it's really important to him that she have a good time, and he obviously loves her, but he doesn't feel entirely comfortable. It's quite relatable, where it's like he's trying so hard to be a good dad and he's joking around with her, but at the same time, like he feels like there's a distance there, and and then they introduce this idea that like she's being bullied, which I think the script approaches in a really realistic way, honestly, where it's like they talk about this obliquely, they never quite say it, and then we realize that one of the other kids is there at the concert, and the mom is there, and him and the mom have this tense interaction. So there's all these elements that are actually very tense to me, because it's like very relatable to me, honestly. And that's not even like the main source. Then it's like on top of that, he's trying to negotiate this thing where he's trying to escape. It's like that, which would also kind of be a great movie, right? It would kind of be a fun movie on its own if it were just like, the authorities create a trap by arranging for a serial killer to attend a concert, and then they try to trap him there. That by itself, without the daughter element, would be an interesting premise. And then you add these two like flavors of tension together, where it's like there's the tension of, is he going to successfully escape? How is he going to escape? Is it going to involve some horrible violence or some trickery or what? And then you mix that again with like, he has to do all of this while giving his daughter the good experience she wants. And I was like, I feel, I don't know. It was remarkably unique level of tension that he reached with this premise. Personally,
completely agree. I want to dive into like the why of those in a bit, but first I want to ask you, like, so obviously, first of all, I agree with you that this all would have worked a million times better had we not known the premise going into it. But I will say that like, that's really the first 15 minutes, right? The movie does not like hold that. I was kind of surprised at the moment that I saw in the trailer where he takes out the phone and we see the guy he's got locked in the basement. I expected that to be like a reveal moment after he talks to the t-shirt guy and we
Mhm.
learn what this is all about. And it's like, oh, he has that fun conversation, then goes to the bathroom, looks at his phone, and like, oh wait, it's him. And the reason I thought that is because that's the way the trailer structures the
Mhm.
reveal. But the movie doesn't do that, right? The movie, he just goes to the bathroom, takes out the phone. We see that he's got a guy locked in the basement before we even know that this is a trap. So I thought that was interesting, and I also liked that we kind of just get that the spoiled by the trailer premise out of the way in like 15 minutes, and then so we can just go from there. I appreciated that.
Mhm.
But I'm curious what you thought about it's really almost halfway through the movie where we actually leave the concert behind. Um, he successfully gets out of the concert and eventually ends up back at his house, and that's really 45 minutes of this hour and 50-minute movie is after that, and the movie changes from there. And I have seen some people say that they were really enjoying the movie up until that part, up until the part where we left the concert behind and moved eventually to his home and everything else. What were your thoughts about that? Did you enjoy that part less, more? What do you think?
Yeah, I think simply I like the first part more. I was
Mm-hmm.
more tense and stressed out and kind of enjoying what we were doing. And it really becomes quite a different feeling movie.
Sure.
I think there's probably more sort of rough moments from the perspective of like some of the acting from like the random cops who are given lines, and you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
that wasn't the best line read. So the for me, like the first half of the movie was brilliant, and then there were spots of like I think I actually enjoyed everything quite a lot, pretty much up until he kidnaps Raven
Mm-hmm.
and in the limo.
Okay.
And then it's not like I stopped enjoying it. It's just like I think it was actually more like, oh, I wanted to go a different direction with this.
Sure. Sure.
And that's not a fair critique against the movie. So anyway, what did you feel about that shift?
I mostly agree that I think it's inferior to the first half. I think the big exception to that me is the final sequence with him and Allison Pill, who plays his wife Rachel. The eating of the pie and how Shyamalan shoots that scene is just like I loved every bit of that. And I think the big problem in that half of the film is, in my opinion, it starts really relying on Knight's daughter, Salika Shyamalan, playing Lady Raven, and her not just relying on her as a presence, which she is a presence through the first half of the movie, just as being this pop star on stage, but relying specifically on her acting performance. And she's not an actress; she's a pop star. By the way, she wrote all the music in this movie. She wrote all the music and sang all that song. That's all her. She did this, but she's not an actor, and I can tell she's not an actor. And I almost think the movie almost asks too much of her in everything she has to do in the second half of the film, and I think it hurts the movie a little bit.
Yeah.
The problem I have with that critique that I just made is that, like, I think it is absolutely pivotal and key to everything that this movie is doing and exploring and talking about, that this is actually M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. Because, Matt, what I think this movie is about, I think this movie is about being M. Night Shyamalan trying to have your career and raise your children. That's what
Mhm.
this movie is about. Trying to be a director of horrible things, of horror movies, of violence and death, while also simultaneously trying to juggle the great responsibility and gift that is being a parent to his daughters. And so having one of his daughters be in this movie, having this movie kind of be specifically designed as a vehicle to showcase her talent as a pop star, is paramount to everything that this movie is doing. And so I think recasting her would have maybe improved the movie. However, it would have ruined the themes of the movie in my mind.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. I think I agree with your read. By the way, if anything, I would just sort of broaden it personally to say, I think it's fairly common for men specifically to be more like, I am master of the universe. I am my career. I am my job. I am my khakis.
Mhm.
And then they have kids, and often there's a tension there where you still feel like you're your job and you also have a kid. And then I think over time that can you kind of wake up one day and realize like, oh, I'm a dad. That's my identity now. Actually,
Yeah.
I have changed how I see myself, and I think that's kind of what we're doing with this character. It's obviously elevated via genre tropes as we
Yeah.
love,
Yeah.
but it's taking the idea that this guy, he was a murderer who probably had kids partly just to blend in, and then one day woke up and realized that he loved his kids, and now he, again, that's where the genuine tension of the movie is. It's like it's not like he's just trying to like manage his daughter so that he can escape. It's he actually is trying to give her the best possible time,
Yeah.
and then also escape.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
It, it is the struggle of wanting to get what you want while also wanting to and needing to provide everything that you need to provide for your
yeah.
loved ones. And I mean, it really interests me in a career like M. Night Shyamalan's, who like I feel like his kids have always been part of it. Like I just think back to Lady in the Water, which is like the movie that um damned him, I guess, to a certain extent. In the like, I think that writing was already on the wall, but like it crystallized after the commercial failure of Lady in the Water, and how that was a story that he told his kids that he turned into a movie, right?
Mhm.
And so like just like also thinking about like what being the child of M. Night Shyamalan would be like. But all of his children, I think, are in uh, creative fields. He has a daughter that's a director. She actually directed a film that he produced called The Watchers that came out earlier this summer. Then Salika Shyamalan is a pop star. Or, I guess it feels weird to say as a pop star. She's a pop singer. She wants to be famous for that specifically. This movie is kind of helping that. And I think his third daughter, whose name is I'm blanking on right now, I think she's in fashion. So she does clothes. And like obviously creativity was like a really really important thing. Like he takes this stuff really seriously. He like that book I read about the making of Lady in the Water like had anecdotes about like how he would sit his kids down after watching something or reading something and really talk to them about like, what did this mean, why, like he like had serious like critique conversations with his kids from the beginning about all this stuff. And now his kids are grown up, they're adults, they're embarking on their own creative endeavors, and you really feel like he's reckoning with his life and his career and his children, and all these things are happening at the same time. And like you said, I think the great thing about this is it is universal. It is like all people struggle with choosing between work or your kid. I had to feel that very intensely this week because my daughter's been sick for the last 2 days and I had to stay home with her. And it's like being nervous and stressed out about all the work emails coming in is just like trying to escape from a concert because you're a serial killer.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's so I don't know if this is like interesting or even relevant necessarily, but like as the movie was ending, I realized that I wanted it to go a different direction. And then what I realized is I was like, oh, I just wanted it to be Mr. Brooks starring Kevin Costner. And I was like, well, it's not going to be that. It's going to end differently. And then I had to make myself be okay with that. But then I was like, yeah, Josh Hartnett in Mr. Brooks, that would have been good. Anyway,
yeah. I mean, I think the one thing I will say, like, kind of, this is not a perfect movie to me, and some of the problems I do have with it are around this ending. I really felt like as the end kind of starts to unfold, it really gets to the point where we're like, come on, man. Like, honestly, when we did the moment that the film ends on, which is that he's being dragged away, he reaches down to pick the bike up, which is a perfect bit of his OCD. Which, by the way, I love how the movie does show don't tell with that. Where like throughout the movie we just have various spots where he does something very specific. He wants things like the first one is they're eating food and he just like folds the napkin very specifically. And then there's the shot that Shyamalan lingers on where he picks up a piece of the pretzel that dropped on the ground and puts it in the cup because he can't have that mess, right? He's very clearly obsessive compulsive in that way. And so like the picking up of the knocked over bike becomes this obsessive compulsive thing, but also this father thing that of course a father is going to pick up their kid's bike because that's what he's concerned about. But then he's stolen one of the spokes of the thing and is going to escape. And I was ready to be like, okay, we can't do another escape. Like the movie needs to end now. And fortunately it did. But I was really starting to feel like when he escapes multiple times in a row, it's just like, okay.
Yeah, that was actually, now that you've said it that way, that was kind of my whole problem. Was it feels like there's a big treading water sort of narrative loop between I don't know when it starts and when it ends, but basically it just feels like not much happens for a while, and then it just ends up with him back at his house with his wife, which is like where he started. So you're like, okay, what was I get, I'm not dumb. Like I get narratively kind of why it had to be that to get the pieces in place.
Yeah,
but it just felt kind of slow.
Yeah, essentially that was it for me. Is that like it felt like he envisioned perhaps just like imagining the way he wrote the script and structured the story. Like he probably envisioned that final scene between him and his wife first, and then had to like figure out how we get there. And that I agree with you. It does feel like a lot of the events of the multiple escapes from places were just like trying to solve script problems to get him back to the house where we could both have him and her sit down and then her drug him and then the taser moments. Like it was definitely like constructed to get back to that point, and felt a little clumsy in that construction. But I enjoy so much of it anyway. Like I said, like Alison Pill, like it's so funny. You see the opening credits for this movie and you see the name Alison Pill and you're just kind of waiting for who that is. I don't know if you know that actress. I've seen her in quite a few things. She played Kim in Scott Pilgrim, which I know you saw, but she also like was in the Aaron Sorkin show The Newsroom. She's just been in a lot of things I've seen, and I always really enjoy her work. And I kind of got a little excited when I saw her name in the opening credits, and I was just waiting for her. And then I find out she's the wife, and like I will say, speaking about the second viewing experience, one thing that definitely happened to me in the first viewing that perhaps hurt my enjoyment of the movie a little bit is I was really waiting for a twist. And I know I should know better about that because like Shyamalan doesn't always have to do twists. That's a misconception about how he structures his stories. Not everything is a twist, which is not to say there's not like twists and turns in this movie. It's just natural plot twists and turns. There are, but like I had convinced myself that as soon as we get to his house, there's going to be some sort of big twist reveal. And I was like, oh, it's definitely the wife's in on it. Like she's totally in on it. Is that like Lady Raven thinks that she's gotten away with something here and then they're going to get home, and no, the wife is in on it. And I feel like the waiting for that kind of twist really damaged my enjoyment of everything because I was just kind of waiting for it. It didn't allow me to just sit with what was actually happening. And of course the second viewing doesn't have any of that because you know exactly what it's doing.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, I didn't have that anticipation of a twist, and I was caught off guard by the revelation that she was part of the plot to catch him. Actually,
I guess that is technically the twist at the end, right? Is that she's the one that set the trap.
Yeah, which thematically, in terms of the metaphor, is a whole can of worms.
Yeah, I wonder what Shyamalan's wife feels about this movie.
Yeah, right. I do wonder how that was on the second viewing, like knowing that because when they come back to the house, so again, I just watched the movie the one time, so I don't remember exactly what her reaction is, but like when they come back to the house with Raven, she's got to be going out of her mind because she's like, oh shit, I know that he went to that concert and they should have caught him, and now he's back and he has the star. what the hell is going on. And
Yeah.
then, and then Raven brings up, the butcher and her reaction. I think I remember well enough. Like her reaction is like not just like awkwardness, like why is she bringing up the butcher, but like actually fear, like not good that she's bringing this up here. Anyway, just wondering if that played any differently for you.
Oh, 100%. This is exactly what I meant by the second
Yeah.
viewing experience. It is everything with Rachel. Because yeah, you're totally right. But I think thinking about it even more, she doesn't know for sure that he's the butcher, right? She thinks he might be. And so she kind of, by her own admission, like sets this trap like to see, like to just test it out.
Mhm.
And so I think part of what you're saying is absolutely correct, that she's afraid because he's showing up with Lady Raven. But also on some level, she might be like, maybe it's not him.
Mhm.
Like they didn't get him. So maybe I was wrong. And so him coming home with her happy, and all that, like there are moments where you look at the look on her face and she does look ecstatic, because like she looks relieved. She looks like everything I feared actually is not true. And thank God for this. And then of course that goes away when right about the time when Lady Raven brings up the butcher. That starts to fade, and you can see it on her face as that fades. It plays very, very well the second time around, I will say.
Okay.
Very well.
Great. Yeah, I'd like to watch it again. Just overall, there's a lot about it where I think there's probably more to catch when you're not so focused on the immediate fear of,
Yeah.
is he going to get caught, or how's this going to go? There's so many little twists and turns, but if you're able to just sit back from it, that would be fun.
Yeah.
I just want to, you like a movie when you just want to talk about all the specific scenes that you liked.
Sure.
I just want to mention the horribleness of it's so brilliant from a directing level, but so horrible from a content level, where you see he's scoping out the hot dog stand, and you see him kind of have that expression that's unique to this character that I've never seen Josh Hartnett do before, where he's like putting things together and he's kind of tickled by something. He's like, yeah, that'll do nicely. And it's like he's like raising his eyebrows, and he has this little smile. It's a very particular expression that it's very unusual. And then you just see his hand dip in next to the fry deep fryer, turn up the heat, and then the woman working at the food stand walks over and looks quizzically into the fryer, and you see there's these bottles of liquid sitting there. And the horrible thing about it is how long we wait, because we know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And she's just standing there looking down at it, and we like cut to a wider shot, and we're watching her just stand there. We're like, get away from the oil. And then it explodes and horribly burns her, obviously.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long that whole sequence is. It's probably objectively quite short, but it feels like forever. And I just loved every second of that.
Yeah, and it like he's so masterful with tension in that, because that scene moves right onto him on the roof, where he gets immediately stopped by the police, because of course the police are on the roof. And that's when he gets to use the Hamilton thing he learns. And then also, where's the card we gave you? And he just happens to have a robe on, or not a robe, apron on that has the guy's wallet in it, that has the card in it. And it's like really masterful, just playing with tension in all of those moments. And it's like it's the thing that we always talk about in these type of movies, where like this guy's awful, and as you said, he just horribly burned and scarred a woman forever just as a distraction, and yet we kind of want to see him get away with it. Like we kind of want him to get out like the whole time.
Yeah,
we really do.
Exactly. Just one note, I'm pretty sure the key, the card he shows them, the name is like Yoshi Takanawa or something. It's not his name. It's clearly not his name. Anyway, it's but yeah, that you're really playing with this idea where like you literally still want his daughter to have a good time at the concert, which is an insane thing to care about
Yeah.
in context of everything that's going on. But like the movie does successfully get you invested in his relationship with his daughter and wanting her to have a good time. And you know, and I think she's a great character and a great actor, because that's like a hard thing to do, I think. Like that,
Yeah, how does that character not become annoying to where you're
exactly.
like, I kind of want her to die. maybe not that strong of an emotion, but yeah, it's very easy for that kind of character to get very, very annoying.
And she wasn't like, and
Yeah.
nor did she, like, she didn't inject her, like she didn't steal too much of the limelight, but also she didn't underplay the role. Like she was full on you know, 10 out of 10 level, like, oh my god, I'm at the you know, the concert, I'm at this is my fantasy, I'm screaming and squealing and all of that. But also, yeah, it was, that to me struck me as a very fine line. And the fact that the whole conversation isn't about, like, as you said, oh my god, can you believe how annoying that was? Like, that's an accomplishment, honestly, given that sort of role.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it starts off that way, right? Like we meet her singing in the car to these songs badly, right?
Mhm.
And then like saying maybe I'll be a singer, and his kind of sarcastic reaction to that is like, yeah, sure. Sure, babe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But then like from there it moves into like, I think we feel bad for her relationship with her asshole friends, obviously. And then it just becomes like, it is really amazing how like you could have taken a lot of like jabs at teens at concerts, right? Like you could have like played really sharp with like belittling the type of person that like sees their the singer on stage and like absolutely loses their mind, like she absolutely loses their mind. But the camera treats her with such like respect and like just straight up is like, no, this is totally understandable. This is all, everyone's here for this thing. It's like really, really exciting. Like it never belittles her obsession with this singer. What did you think of the music? Actually, that kind of segues to a point that was like
Yeah.
it's a little weird to me because it feels like it's supposed to just sound like samey pop music a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's interesting because it's not really my thing, but I still found it enjoyable. Like it, in the sense of just like, that's pleasant, you know. I think the key thing for a movie like this is for it to be pleasant and not anything weird or like something that would draw attention to itself too much and away from the stuff that's happening. Like I could, so what one way that I think about these things is like, if one of my kids really liked this music and wanted to play it in the car, I would be fine with that. I would just, you know, I let them listen to whatever they want to anyway. But sometimes I have to kind of be like, okay, yeah, can we listen to something else though? But this was it was like inoffensive. It was fine. I borderline liked it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good because like you want it to be like recognizably, oh, this is pop. This is like pop music. This is current day pop music. You want people to believe why people would like this, but you also don't want it completely overpowering. And it's not like, this is not Taylor Swift, right? It's not supposed to be Taylor Swifty. It's supposed to be like maybe a couple rungs down from the popularity of Taylor Swift. Because it's not like a huge arena. But it's a pretty big venue, which, by the way, like, this is like he really got thousands of people as extras to be in an arena to shoot this movie. He really did that. Like, I don't understand why we treat M. Night Shyamalan so weirdly sometimes, where he's like it's every time a new M. Night Shyamalan movie comes out, I just see like the snickering and like, oh, this guy that used to be good, remember when he made one good movie and now everything else has sucked? And I'm like, he's constantly coming up with original ideas, he's shooting on film, he's using extras. Like, this is a movie that, and like, this is a movie that I think needs it to not be CG and
Yeah.
needs like this to feel like a crowd of people, that like there's a bunch of people around that he's having to kind of work his way through to get around. It needs all that, and it's all here. And I just feel like, what do you people want? What do you want from movies?
Yeah. Oh, they're just sad assholes who. And once again, I have to say, the movie made more than double its budget, which
Yeah.
is the qualification of a movie that has done well.
Yep,
Not.
he's got his lane, man. He knows what to
Yep.
do and he knows how to spend it. And he spent a lot of money getting all these extras in here. Like, a lot of this 30 million was probably like just filling up a stadium
Yeah.
with people.
I mean, I'd say it looks like it looks damn good for a $30 million movie. Actually, like he's efficient. He knows how to do things efficiently. He's smart.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree totally. Like there's so many scenes where you're just not necessarily even in the giant space, but you're in like everybody knows how the outer rings of like the concession booths and everything are.
Yeah.
Those are incredibly packed, right? So it's important that there be just this insane press of extras in those situations. It would definitely ring fake and lame if it were just if they skimped on that, right? So just across the board, just super well done. I liked it more than I expected, which is weird. I guess even I am somewhat susceptible to the anti-Shyamalan bias, despite the fact that we do both love Shyamalan. I think I expected to like it. I didn't expect it to like it as much as I actually did. Because I think maybe I liked Old too, but I thought Old was like the kind of movie. A lot of Shyamalan's movies are the kinds of movies where I'm like, wow, I'm really glad he made this. This was really interesting. I'm glad he's taken these kind of shots. I don't know if it like worked for me, but I enjoyed it and it was good. Whereas this just like worked on me. Like I was locked in almost the whole time, other than the kind of the stretch that we complained about already.
I agree with that. I think I like this better than Old. And I want him to keep getting to do stuff like this. It's so fun. And you can tell he's having a fun time writing it. You can tell like he's in his lane with this kind of stuff. I feel like he feels happier than he has been in a long time, just by watching his movies. And like, he's got his system down. He's got it down. $30 million. Basically, his name alone guarantees that he's going to turn a profit on that. Like, if you spend a little, you'll be okay, even if the movie underperforms, which this one I think kind of underperformed compared to like Old or Knock at the Cabin. But still it was enough. And I love this guy. I love what he does. Like his camera work in this movie, once again, like I've always said, M. Night Shyamalan shoots B movies with an A movie camera. Like, and I think it just remains true. Like, the things he does with his camera, the setups he has, like, honestly, my favorite scene in the whole movie might be that conversation between Rachel and Cooper at the very end of the movie when he's eating the pie, and just the way Shyamalan frames that conversation, the way like we cut back to him stabbing into the pie, like the sound mix of the fork scratching on the plate and him like talking through mouthfuls as he eats the pie. And we don't even know that the pie is drugged, but like the movie kind of wants you to guess that before it happens. And just everything about that conversation, the fact that Hartnett like randomly just takes his shirt off before he does, like, it's all so good. It's so well constructed and blocked and shot, and it just leads to like maximal tension. And like that sequence reminded me of, I remember when we talked about The Sixth Sense a long time ago, and I talked about the sequence between Bruce Willis and Haley Joel Osment when he's having him do like the walk, step closer to me if I'm getting right and further away if I'm getting wrong.
Mm.
and just like the skill of camera work on display in that sequence. That's what I was thinking about when I watched this sequence. And not because it's like similar camera work, but it's just like the same level of like, holy shit, this guy knows how to make movies.
Yeah.
This guy shoots the fuck out of movies. And like that has never gone away. Even in some of his worst movies, there's been this just absolute control of the camera that I just love so much.
He's always asking, what is the best way to do this? And he's open to a surprising answer to that question, you know?
Yeah.
You talked a minute ago about the camera straight on actor looking into the lens shots like Silence of the Lambs. And, you know, the fact that happens when he's having this argument with the mom of one of his kids' friends. And it is intense, right? Like,
yeah, the way that frames is she's like he's the serial killer, but she feels dangerous and monstrous in that sequence.
Right.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
It's so good because you're totally right. And also at the same time, like moment to moment is playing with this idea of like, she has no idea what she's getting herself into with this guy.
Yeah.
But also it's not like she does sort of pose a threat to him because he needs to not be dealing with this right now. So it's so complicated and interesting and unique. I love it so much.
It's just like at the end of the day, it's just a great fucking idea for a movie like that. Like this thing is the skill of Shyamalan notwithstanding, this movie is so carried by just the strength of concept here. It's such a good idea, and like I'm over the moon for this kind of stuff, and I just like keep going, Knight. Please keep going. I love it so much.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Matt. So here at the end of the conversation, it's time to have a chat. I kind of have a feeling of where we're going to end up putting this. But I want to talk about our official, the only official ranking of M. Night Shyamalan movies.
Yes.
It's the official one. There's currently 13 movies on the list. We're about to add a 14th movie. But Matt, will you, in ascending order, will you please read our list of M. Night Shyamalan films?
Will do. Starting from number 13, The Last Airbender. 12, After Earth. 11, Glass. Number 10, Lady in the Water. 9, The Happening. Number 8, The Visit. 7, Old. 6, Knock at the Cabin. Number 5, The Village. 4, Split. Number 3 was Unbreakable. Number 2 was Signs, and the number 1 best Shyamalan movie was The Sixth Sense.
All right, so I think the conversation here has to be the start is we've got our top 5 right here, like The Village, Split, Unbreakable, Signs, The Sixth Sense. These are our top 5, right?
Yeah.
Does this movie enter that hallowed ground of top 5?
I think it does for me. I don't actually feel a lot of inner struggle about this question.
Okay.
It has admittedly been a while since I saw any of these, but just on a lot of the metrics on which I care about movies, I do think it is a contender for one of those slots up there. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm my first reaction to you said that was like incredulity, because I was like, no way. But then the more I started thinking about it, I mean, The Village is a movie I deeply love, and I think it's underappreciated for sure. But is this movie better than The Village? It might be.
Yeah.
I feel like our top 3 is kind of set in stone, if I'm being honest with you. I feel like Unbreakable, Signs, Sixth Sense as the top 3 Shyamalan films. I think it's going to take a whole lot to break into that, and I don't think Trap does it. But if we're talking about the 5th or 4th slot, I think I'm close to feeling like that might be right.
Yeah, I'm basically aligned there. I was kind of eyeing the 5th slot. And the thing is, I also love The Village. In fact, I might love The Village more than you. I don't.
You do, yes.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't remember if this is true or not, but I feel like I was fighting for the village to have a higher rank.
Yes.
And the thing is, though, the village is one of those movies where I have to like put my brain into a very open-minded state of like, we're gonna erase all of the rules of filmmaking over the last century, and we're gonna imbibe this unique, weird vision. And it's got a lot of great moments, got a lot of great performances. It's doing something very weird and unique, and I love that he makes movies like that. But this movie just was a like solid end-to-end thriller that I just thought this was a movie where if I were going to show it to someone, I wouldn't have to contextualize it for them. I would just be like, this is a good movie. But also at the same time, it's not like Shyamalan is compromising and like, it's not like this is him giving up and saying like, fine, I'll make a boring commercial movie. It's still a Shyamalan movie. It's got all of his hallmarks. I think it's just in service of a premise that's a little bit more I don't even want to say conventional, because it's not really. It's more like a genre that's conventional. I think that's one, because it's a thriller. Thing you can say about this movie is it's a thriller. The Village, what is The Village? Nobody knows. What is Knock at the Cabin? What is Old? Right? But so this just makes it easy to process. I don't know. I'm kind of going far afield here. My point is, I can see it going in the number 5 slot, maybe the number 6 slot. If I honestly could wake up tomorrow morning and feel like it was insane to put this movie above The Village. And this may be recency bias, but I think I won't. I think I will feel like it goes around like in the range of 5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting because I do think The Village was him like trying to be a certain thing, and it is like essentially still Shyamalan. I think you're absolutely right. Like all these movies are definitely M. Night Shyamalan through and through. But like I feel like he was trying to do something elevated with The Village that, while we appreciated, didn't always work. I love the idea of explaining this movie and having to do a lot of legwork to explain why it's good, versus Trap. You can just be like, Trap. I'm wondering, did this movie strain credulity at any moment for you? Because there were a couple moments that I kind of rolled my eyes at, where like, we didn't talk about this when we were talking about the movie, but like when Lady Raven, within the course of like 2 minutes, like streams and has someone find where the kidnapped guy is being kept within like in a very, very short amount of time. That was the one point in the movie when I went like, oh, okay. But I also like understand what Shyamalan is doing there, specifically in exploring like the power that this woman wields, like, and the power that social media and that kind of thing can do. Like, I wonder if it's like specifically like, look at this incredible tool we have and how it could be used for good, and yet we mostly use it for terrible, awful shit.
Yeah, I don't know that bothered me. I think it was like, to me, a lot of this movie is setting up really difficult situations and then watching our character try to figure out a way out of them. And you, the viewer, are sort of trying to figure out. So you, while you're watching Raven in that scene, you're like, how the hell is she going to get out of this? And then she uses her phone and live stream, and it's like, wow, that's pretty cool, actually. And like, maybe it's unrealistic.
Smart, yeah.
It's unrealistically fast, but it's a good idea. And I mean, if you're asking what part strained credulity, like the part where he gets out of the limo somehow, even though it's like surrounded by cops, and that, to me, that was almost like the only sort of maybe like directorial fumble, because the idea is like, well, because the fans are so jam-packed around the limousine, he's able to slip out into the mass of fans and be unnoticed. And that's, yet more sort of commentary about like the negative role of constantly being surrounded by people. But it didn't bother me that much. That was just a moment where I was like, how did he get out of I got a limo. It didn't really, matter.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Anyway, so back to the conversation at hand. It seems like, so I guess before we make the village or trap decision, looking at this list, are you good with everything else? Does everything else feel like it's in the right spot? I think it's really funny that we've put both Old and Knock at the Cabin. We were just like, yep, these are kind of just middle of the road Shyamalan, right? They're just maybe a little bit heading towards the top end, but mostly just right smack dab in the middle. Is there any, have you cooled on Old or Knock at the Cabin to the point where you might want to knock them down a little bit?
I think Old, I haven't rewatched it. I don't. So the only stuff that bothers me about the list so far is that Lady in the Water is so low, which I think was a sort of compromise that you and I made.
I mean, like, it's a movie we like, but it's not like a good movie.
I think Lady in the Water is a movie that I always loved, and then we watched it for our Deconstructing Shyamalan series, and I was disappointed by it.
Yeah,
that's my recollection anyway. But I have a soft spot for it for whatever reason. I think Paul Giamatti is just worth a lot to me, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, so that's my The Happening, which I would never call a good movie, but I also have a very warm, glowy soft spot for it.
Yeah. I other than that, I think the list makes sense to me. I don't know that Old needs to be like another way of phrasing that question is like, does Old need to be lower in the list? And I'm like, well, I don't know that I think I don't know that I think I like any of these other movies more than Old. So
Old is very fun.
Yeah.
The beach makes you old. It's very fun.
The beach makes you old. And also, I mean, to be blunt, there's a lot of movies that I just didn't like very much toward the bottom of the list. So
sure. Yeah.
I am surprised that we put Glass so low. Do we really not like Glass at all?
I was a little surprised about that too. We would probably have to go back and listen to that episode and figure out what happened there. I think ultimately, like, Glass is like probably one of his most ambitious things he's ever done, and it's a little clunky. I deeply love that movie. But yeah, as you were reading the list, seeing Glass as better than only After Earth and The Last Airbender.
Yeah, I guess as I think about it though, that's a lot of sitting around and having conversations, which is just not. He's made so many better movies, I guess, is another.
Yeah. Also, it feels to me like a deeply angry movie. Mm-hmm. Like him kind of working out some of the aggression against his critics, which is fine. But it like Lady in the Water did that in a way that I thought was like him trying to be profound and beautiful, and Glass is just like, man, fuck all this. Which is really interesting. I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it. I will find any excuse to rewatch a Shyamalan movie, so that's fine with me. Yeah, I think we should leave it there for now, but I agree with you. That's when we look at Shyamalan's next film, we will have to have also rewatched Glass to be able to to figure out if we agree with this or not.
I'm on the same page. We need to get to the bottom of this mystery.
This mystery that we created.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. I guess the longer we talk about this, though, the more I just can't really make up my mind on whether I like it more than The Village, because I haven't seen The Village in forever, and I just watched this movie, which is one of the downsides of like the Addendum Deconstructing episodes, where sure. all these other movies we watched basically in sequence, except for the other Addendum ones, which means we had them fresh in mind. So I guess yeah, I don't know. No, number 5 or number 6 is my opinion, and I'm not super sure where exactly it goes.
I'm gonna put it at 5. I think that feels right to me.
Yeah.
I think I'm really like catching hold of what you said about like it just working as a movie. Like I think The Village is a concept that is ambitious and fascinating and weird and wonderful, and doesn't always work, which is all the reasons why I love it. And Trap is just Trap. It's like just it's as simple and lovely as its conceit, which is just like, what if a serial killer was stuck in a Taylor Swift concert?
If you say it that way, you know what? You're right. It definitely goes at number 5.
I love this, man. Every time we talk about Shyamalan, we always get people that are like, "Oh, well, you hate Christopher Nolan, but you like this trash guy," and it's like, yeah,
It's not even true. I don't know where this meme came from, because we loved Oppenheimer. Well, yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter.
You know what? I didn't. I'm sorry that I didn't like Interstellar. I don't think that's a very good movie.
Yeah,
sorry.
I rewatched Interstellar recently, and it's very slow, actually. It's very like cold.
I've been saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a couple of great moments in it, but it's just so long, and there's like, yeah, it's not. I do like others of his movies. That's probably his. That might be like my least favorite of his movies, actually.
I love The Prestige. I love Memento. I thought Oppenheimer was a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I don't think Tenet's good, and I didn't like Interstellar. Sorry.
I think Inception is, achieves what it's trying to achieve. I think that's a fun movie.
The Batmans have cooled on me a bit.
Yeah. This is a total tangent, but I rewatched Endgame the other day.
Oh no, I bet that cooled on you.
It cooled. Big time. And I was really I was bummed too, because I was like, I liked this movie a lot. Like, I know I did. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to go watch Infinity War, because what if Infinity War is also not good? Because I love Infinity War.
It's not. Infinity War is a great ending. That's what it is. It has a killer end to it. And Endgame, I think, is the same thing to a certain extent. I think Endgame is the better movie. I know we disagree about that, but there's a lot of like moments that work mixed in a movie that's kind of clunky. And I think that's what both of those movies were. So yeah. I still like, it doesn't take anything away from the finale, which I think is just like everything after, spoilers, Hulk brings everyone back is awesome. It's awesome. But yeah, it's not, it's a fine movie. It's a fine movie.
Yeah, I was genuinely like reeling from just that feeling of like, wow, I really counted this among the movies that I liked and thought was good, and shocking to just like find that is not true anymore. And also kind of wonder why. I know this. I brought this up because you talked about Batman. I think the same thing has happened to me with Batman, where those are movies that I thought were just awesome. Actually, The Dark Knight might still be awesome. I'm not sure. Not sure.
I'm gonna stop that, because I'm just gonna make the Nolan heads mad at me again. The Dark Knight is a very good movie with a very, very, very good performance in it. That's all I need to say about that. But no, I mean, I honestly think part of this is just like a lot of what Endgame was banking on was your hype and excitement for this being the end game of everything that's come before it. And so like the feeling of sitting in that theater, knowing you're getting a conclusion to this decade long story, and then having that conclusion be satisfying emotionally and structurally, like, goes a long way. And over time after that, when you leave that moment behind and you look back on it without that great feeling of propulsive momentum towards the end, you see the cracks, you see the holes. And I think that's normal and fine.
I think you nailed it. I think that's exactly what it is. Yeah, there's a lot of setting that goes into how you're going to process a movie.
Yep. That's why, I mean, people call it like the festival effect, when like a movie premieres at a film festival and everyone comes out of the film festival being like, this was the greatest movie of all time. And it's just like being at a movie festival, seeing a premiere of a movie, like goes a long way towards your excitement towards the movie. So
the director was in the room with you. That might have had something to do with it. Yeah.
I liked it, and I was at a film festival, so that made me fall in love with it. Yeah. It happens.
Makes sense.
It was with I think that happened with the what was the Stuntman movie that came out earlier this year?
Fall Guy.
Yeah. Fall Guy premiered at South by Southwest, and like people walked out of that movie being like, this is why movies exist. This is the exact kind of summer movie we've always wanted. And then I saw it and I was like, hey, this is fun. This is a fun movie. It wasn't great. It was fine.
Gonna be honest, couldn't even finish it.
Really?
I just got bored. I mean, I was watching it at home. I was like, I got other stuff to do. Turn it off.
Did you? Okay. Now that you've seen at least part of it, I can ask you this question. I was absolutely, I had a incredibly weird experience with that movie where I was like, at some point, like just crazy shit starts happening to the main character. And I had like convinced myself this was a dream sequence. I was like, this has to be a dream. Like, why is this happening? And like, it felt, I think it felt like the movie was going to do one tone for part of it. And then it like curved hard into a different tone. And I'm like, I just was unready for it.
I mean, specifically he drinks like a spiked drink at some point, right? And then he
yes, but I meant even before that though.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. I don't know that I thought about this too much. But yeah, it definitely, like, you think you're kind of getting into a rom-com, and then it turns into something that I can't even really just succinctly define, where I don't even know. I think that was why I got bored, is I was like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to care about here.
I thought it was very weird when, like, it was very unbelievable to me when the Emily Blunt character like is halting the entire production of the film to like air their dirty laundry against each other. Like, I just didn't believe that she, like, the whole thing is like, this is her first opportunity. This is her greatest opportunity. Like, she's finally going to get to be a big name director. Can't blow this. Don't blow it. Don't blow it. And then she wastes like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And like, it just felt like he would be maybe driving that, and like she would be trying to put a stop to it based on what I knew about their characters. And this is like part of like, is this a dream? Like, I just remember having this very distinct like feeling of like, is this really happening throughout that movie?
I know I overused this description at this point, but it was sort of a magical realism, like floaty. Like,
yes.
Like, we're not supposed to take this literally. This is not the way people really act. You're not meant to. That was kind of how I took it, of just like, oh, this is a silly sort of, it's one of those silly comedies that's not meant to be real.
And I think if I watched it again with like kind of knowing what it was now, I think I would just maybe be along for the ride a little bit more. But at the moment, I was just really like, I don't know what it was. I felt really weird watching that movie for whatever reason.
Another problem with me, of course, is that I think my expectations for Ryan Gosling are way too high now, where I'm just like, if it's not the greatest art I've ever seen, I'm like, oh, this is trash. This is so disappointing. And it's like, the guy, just let the guy make a silly comedy. Just chill out.
I don't know if he can open a movie. Like, as much as I love him, he doesn't seem like he can open a movie.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Poor guy.
Yeah. Sure, he's crying in his vault of money. All right, well, that was kind of some tangents there at the end of the episode, but Trap, good movie.
Always good to have a sequence of nested tangents at the end of an episode about M. Night Shyamalan. What a twist.
Yep. I see what you did there, and I like it. All right, that is all we had for you guys this week. If you have any opinions on Trap, on M. Night Shyamalan, on our ranking, or hell, on, why can't I remember? See, every time I think of Ryan Gosling, I say The Other Guys, even though that's not even the right name of the movie I'm thinking of. Because The Other Guys is a Will Ferrell movie, but still, this, like, I'm wrong, like nested 3 times.
Uh-huh.
But
And
that's
now
what
that-
my brain's doing.
And now that you've said that, I can't think of the name of the movie that you're referring to. Nice Guys?
Nice Guys.
Nice Guys.
Maybe? Yes? I think that's right.
The Nice Guys. Yeah.
The Nice Guys, yes.
Yeah.
But this is the Fall Guy.
Yeah. There you go.
Let us know what you thought of that. Or if you've rewatched Endgame since 2019 and also feel like Matt does, you can reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com or on Twitter at doofmedia. We actually set up a special email account. If you have any comments about Christopher Nolan, though, it's mattfreeman@doofmedia.com.
Uh-huh.
So just send them there. We'll respond, I promise.
Yeah, I definitely know that is an active email address. Totally. Anyway, if you're not already subscribed to this podcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, YouTube, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
And if you like what we do here, please consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. You can head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia and join at any of the available levels there. You can get a whole bunch of free content. We are free. You can get a bunch of content that is locked behind that patron wall. Tons of bonus stuff. Matt just released a new episode of his show with his brother this week, right?
Yep. We talked about robots. We talk about robots a lot. Talked about robots again. We like to talk about robots. What can I say?
Matt, when can I get a robot?
If you have like $15,000, I think you could get one now. It might not be very good though. Unclear.
Matt, when can I get the Robin Williams robot from Bicentennial Man?
2028.
Sweet. I can't wait.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited.
Me too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish.
All right. Please consider giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Each review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
All right, folks. Next week, we are back with our ongoing Planet of the Apes series. We will be taking a look at Tim Burton's 2001 Apes film titled Planet of the Apes.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.